The story begins with today's dark reality of how humanity is becoming hooked to the internet, and how the younger generation is rapidly getting addicted to online games and videos. The teenagers are so engrossed in these virtual reality games that sometimes they even forget the demarcation between reality and the gaming world. In order to bring those youngsters back into the real world and teach them discipline and manners, the Elite Re-Education Academy has been built, which is a civilian facility. Hibiki is one such young man severely addicted to gaming. Day and night he hears voices of playing games all the time and skipping school. One night he abruptly wakes up and finds himself in a dark, bizarre confinement. There are two other boys like him trying to get out of that confinement. One of them is so boggled that he is repeatedly banging himself against the solid walls thinking that he would smash it just like he did in a game. Even Hibiki feels that he has actually entered a gaming world and the boys are real soldiers, see this as addiction. Soon they hear footsteps, and a dashing lady enters along with some burly guards and snootily introduces herself as the headmistress of the facility named Jean. It is shown how roughly the boys are treated in that facility, even worse than the armed forces. They are beaten, locked for days without food, and belittled for trivial things. Soon a stranger is shown checking out the details of the newly enrolled members. Soon the most dreaded school instructor Cheyenne arrives looking at those boys menacingly. He then sets some ground rules for the academy and beats one of the boys fiercely. The guy is pretty much unpredictable because at one time he reprimands Hibiki for staring at Jean intently, so when the boy denies it, he strikes him for ignoring someone so beautiful. Out of terror, Hibiki admits that he is staring at Jean, so Cheyenne hits him again for being a pervert. Hibiki is told that his mother has made a special request to confine him due to his severe addiction. For this purpose he is strictly prohibited from any kind of visits for at least a year. Poor Hibiki couldn't believe his ears and wanted to run away from this confinement as soon as possible. He remembers how badly he treated his mother whenever she called him for dinner. Soon he reaches the terrace and sets out to commit suicide when he's stopped by that same stranger who asks him to sell his life to him, and he would a completely new meaning to his life. So he gives him the option to die and end everything or to live like a man. Meanwhile, Cheyenne and his accomplices are frantically looking for Hibiki, whom they fear has run away. The stranger named Shin gives Hibiki a pair of binoculars and asks him to choose whichever girl he likes. Hibiki spots Shiori, a middle school honor student, and he wonders whether she is also an internet addict. Soon both Shin and Hibiki walk down the hallways and encounter Cheyenne. Shin talks coolly to Cheyenne that Hibiki got lost while finding the toilet. Surprisingly, the stern head instructor is unable to say anything to Shin to Hibiki's delight. Cheyenne reaches Jean's office and a stranger mocks him for being afraid of a student. Soon Shin brings Hibiki to the ground and whispers something in a bully-cum-officer Wudo's ear. Shin then tells Hibiki that he's about to watch something very interesting. Soon Wudo grabs a girl, puts his hand inside her underclothes, and pulls out a mobile set. The girl keeps on fidgeting and begs Wudo to give back her phone, but Wudo mercilessly flips her over. He harasses her further by tearing up her clothes to everyone's embarrassment. But suddenly a girl lunges toward him and places a paper cutter on his neck. Hibiki's mouth opens wide in astonishment when he sees Shiori braving her life. She asks him to leave that already frightened girl alone. Suddenly, one of Wudo's accomplices comes along and tries to hit her, but Shiori dodges successfully and pins that guy to the ground. The poor lad begins to tremble when Shiori presses her paper cutter to his chest. So much for the chivalry bubble that gets burst by a mere paper cutter. The troublemaker doesn't give up and throws a stone at Shiori, but Hibiki saves her and takes the strike himself. Soon other officers come along and cool down the matter. Shiori tries to recognize Hibiki but doesn't say anything to him. She then asks him to follow her for the first aid. Meanwhile, Cheyenne is teased by his co-worker Hayo about how he is intimidated by his own child. Jean adds that now he has to pay for his sins. Meanwhile, Shiori asks the girl that she didn't save her life for free, but she wants her to smuggle a cell phone just like she did before. If she is able to do that, then Shiori would teach her knife skills, and with their help, the girl could also take her own life if she is bullied. Hibiki is surprised at how cold and hurtful Shiori has become over time. Soon Shin appears and makes an offer to the girls that whoever is able to make a man out of Hibiki would be awarded a cell phone. The girl named Jun immediately tries to lure Hibiki, but Shin then reveals her dark past about how she defrauded people with her wily boyfriend, and how she was about to land in jail but her parents pulled her strings and sent her to this facility. It is revealed that it was actually Shin who informed Wudo about Jun carrying a phone. What a tattletale he is. Jun immediately leaves, cursing all. Next, he asks Shiori to give her services and asks Hibiki to provide ample evidence. Soon Hibiki reaches the land of fantasy when Shiori tries to be intimate with him, but his fantasies are rudely disturbed by Shiori retching out uncontrollably. The scene continues when Hibiki becomes too emotional and hilariously comes closer to Shiori, who gets too much stressed and then pukes on his face. But this doesn't stop Hibiki, who keeps pacing back and forth thinking how he could help Shiori escape from this living hell and also get a cell phone. The first problem is the evidence of intimacy which he has to present to Shin, so he finds out a way and assures Shiori that the problem is solved and she would not be forced to get intimate with him. Shiori's heart softens for Hibiki, whom she thinks is not an exceptional person but has always been a kind-hearted person. When Shiori is leaving, she assures Hibiki that if anyone bullies him, he must come to him and she would cut down the offender in no time. Shin is standing outside the shack and Shiori snatches the phone from his hand. Meanwhile, Wudu is fuming because that Shin tricked him and gave the cell phone to Shiori instead of him. Meanwhile, Shin asks for the evidence from Hibiki, which he provides readily, but he warns him that women's bodies shouldn't be used as articles of trade. Shin grabs him by the neck and calls him his dog. But Shin releases himself from his clutches and tells him clearly that he only promised he would not commit suicide. From that moment onwards, they don't have any relationship in between. With this, Hibiki storms out of the door, thinking that he would think of a way for Shiori and him to escape from this garbage heap. Shin watches Hibiki storming out and smirks that the latter is acting just the way he wants. Soon Hibiki stands outside his dorm and is hesitant to enter it, but he is gently pushed by a person named Bin-ak, a big bro. Bin is the dorm head and is usually found in the office and is a jolly fellow. Hibiki has to share a room with 3 other boys who don't seem like bullies but asks him to bring nice lunches for them as he has befriended Shin. So when he reaches the cafeteria, there are 2 kinds of lunches sold, and one required meal ticket is quite expensive. Another one is a free meal served by a scrawny, almost hairless lady whom Hibiki mistakenly calls Sir to her fury. Soon he carries trays of that questionable free food to his dorm room. The roommates reprimand him and tell him that they welcome him just because he is Shin's underling. Soon they begin to attack Hibiki, but Hibiki overpowers them as the trio is hopelessly malnourished. Soon they begin to cry and reveal how poorly they are treated by Big Bro, who's always picking fights for them and then asks for protection money. Hibiki barges in the Big Bro's room to reprimand him, but is ruthlessly kicked out by the latter. Soon it's time for some military training and the head instructor gives them the routine instructions. Cheyenne keeps on telling them that all the students here are useless pieces of trash but would definitely become respectable, disciplined citizens once rehabilitated. He then makes all of them go through vigorous exercising and long lap running. The student got so tired that he sat down for a while. Alas, Cheyenne spots him and begins to hit him brutally. Soon Hibiki intervenes in the middle and asks Cheyenne not to hit the student as he's already malnourished and has missed lunch. On hearing this, Cheyenne's blood begins to boil and he starts haunting Hibiki. Shiori, assigned to clean the whole lawn, spots him and begins to approach him, but she is halted by one of the guards. The head instructor keeps on hitting Hibiki like crazy, but the latter doesn't budge and keeps on saying that the whole setup is illegal and that he would report everything to the police. Cheyenne strikes him again, but this time Hibiki strikes back and a stunned Cheyenne gets a nosebleed. The blockhead Shane keeps on bantering that he's the law, and he's the police. Looks like everyone's insane in this academy. Soon Hibiki encourages other students to speak up for themselves, and believe me, students did speak. They said with their eyes closed that they were useless pieces of garbage and their instructor is always right. Talk about brainwashing and creating human parrots. Soon Shiori intervenes to Hibiki's relief, but to his astonishment, she begins to beat him and strike him very hard. Like I said, everyone has lost their marbles in this academy. While bowing down, Shiori whispers in his ears that he has to act sensibly against those military officials. But Hibiki doesn't care and begins shouting that it's better to die than to live in a place like this. Soon Kaori begins hitting him again, and this time the cell phone from her pocket drops down. Soon the other students pin her to the ground, while Cheyenne starts punishing Hibiki's classmates by spanking them until Hibiki gives up his arrogance. Soon Shiori's classmates are called and each is told to slap Shiori on her face for her punishment. The poor boys are also hit hard, and finally, Hibiki gives up and says that he is wrong and the instructor is right. Hibiki's classmates are angry at him and so is Shiori, who calls him rubbish. He is feeling too upset when Shin visits him. Hibiki begs him to take him as his dog, but Shin refuses as he doesn't look back. However, if Hibiki fulfills his 3 conditions, then he would reconsider. The first condition is that Hibiki has to become the leader of his class. Second, he has to remove Wudo from his position, and the third condition is not told to the viewers. Soon Hibiki barges into his dormitory and announces himself as the leader of Class 4. All students begin to mock him and make fun of him, but when he puts chicken wings and other delicacies in front of them, they all bow to Hibiki. For the second condition, he provokes Wudo, and the latter along with his gang begins to chase Hibiki. Hibiki brings them to an isolated place and manages to knock Wudo down. Then we saw Hibiki fights with Wudo and his companions. It is raining in the night when Wudo runs after Hibiki to beat him. Hibiki takes Wudo to the school with a plan. Here, Bin closes the door according to the curfew time and Wudo sticks inside and thinks that he will beat Hibiki alone. but Hibiki with his team members beats him badly. On the other side, Shin is in his room and is happy by thinking that everything is happening according to his desires. Hibiki takes Wadu to the instructor, Cheyenne, with his classmates and tells him that he has smuggled cell phones of students. So, Cheyenne beats him with his legs and sends him into a hole for a week as a punishment. Cheyenne praises Hibiki for his actions. After that, Cheyenne goes to the headmistress' office. Jean punishes him on his student's complaint by hitting him on his back. Hibiki is watching all this from the door. Wudo is screaming alone in the hole when Ryo goes to him. Wudo asks him for help, and for this purpose, he reveals the secret of cell phones. He tells everything about Jun and Shin and also tells Ryo that now Cheyenne has these cell phones. Ryo understands everything by his words. Then he pushes him back and allows the other officers to beat him badly as a punishment. Ryo goes away, abusing Cheyenne and Shin in his heart. On the other side, Hibiki goes to Shin and explains his situation, that he has a hard time in front of Cheyenne because he is afraid of being caught. He tells him that he is very nervous in front of Cheyenne. Hibiki asks Shin how he knows about the cell phone. Shin smiles at his question and replies that he will learn slowly. While talking, Shin takes Hibiki to his room, which is also a headquarters for current operations. Hibiki is surprised to see his magnificent room. Both sit there and drink a beer. Here Shin explains everything to Hibiki in detail and asks him about his next target. Shin explains to him further to set the next target in 6th class because they are also involved in cell phone smuggling. Shin tells him that he has to win Cheyenne's trust, and he can do this by telling him about the hidden cell phones of students. He can also use Shiori in his target when she will ask for a cell phone. Hibiki gets confused hearing his words, but at this Shin calls him stupid and tells him to act cleverly to raise his standard from loser. On the other side, Shiori, while standing in the garden, looks at a broken flower silently, which reminds her about the past. Suddenly, Akane comes there and hugs her from behind, but she does not recognize him. Meanwhile, Hoku also comes there and starts fighting with Shiori. Shiori hits her in return. Akane and Hoku get impressed by his action. Akane asks her to join them in their mission. On the other side, Hibiki asks his class to fight with Class 6, but his roommate starts fighting him. After some time, Ryo reaches Shin's room and starts beating him. Akane insists Shiori to become a team with her, but Shiori flatly denies it and says she has no time for such stupid things. She starts to leave, but Akane stops her and tells her that if she will support her team, then in return she will get a cell phone with a strong internet connection with which she will be able to contact her brother. She is surprised to hear about her brother and how she knows about her brother. Akane tells him that she knows everything about her by hacking the school data system. She also knows that she has only a young brother in her family who is in the hospital right now. Shiori is shocked to hear all this. On the other side, Ryo is holding Shin's throat and asking about Jun's cell phone. Meanwhile, Ban comes there and rescues Shin from Ryo. Shin tells him that he does not have any cell phone because his bad dog takes this phone away. Hibiki reaches the place indicated by Shin. Here a student's gang comes to beat him. He tells them to stay away from him, but they all make fun of him because he is alone. On the other hand, Shiori agrees with Akane so that she can keep in touch with her brother by the cell phone given by Akane. This cell phone is located by Akane because she knows about all the cell phones. Hibiki starts beating himself so that he can accuse them of it. Meanwhile, Cheyenne comes there and he sees that Hibiki is beaten by the gang. He punishes the leader of the gang and asks others to be careful. Hibiki succeeds in his plan and tells the remaining members that he is not a bad boy, he just wants to eliminate bad from school. He tells them that he does not want to hurt them, in fact he also wants to save them all. He asks them for help and invites them to dinner in the evening. They all agree. Just then, Shiori comes there with Akane and Hoku. Akane falls on Hineki as soon as she sees him because she likes him very much and wants to hug him, but this is very awkward for Hibiki. Hoku gets angry with Akane and asks Hibiki about the cell phones which are smuggled by Wadu. Hibiki replies that he doesn't know anything about the cell phone, but girls do not trust his words. Boys standing along Hibiki make fun of Hoku. This is very bad for Hoku. Hoku kicks them all and now she is near to kick Hibiki, but Shin comes there on time and handles everything. Shin is mixed with boys of class 6. He gathers everyone together in one place on the pretense. He betrays Hibiki and brings Shiori and Hoku in front of him to take off their clothes and take nude pictures of them. This is very difficult for Hibiki, so he refused. Shin bets him on his behavior and gives him another chance to click their pictures. A school gang tortures Moku badly. They push him down and crush his food with their feet. He is very afraid of it and therefore takes his food outside, but Cheyenne comes there and starts scolding him. He angrily shouts at him and orders him to go to the dining hall. He tells Cheyenne that if he bothers the gang, they will kill him, that's why he wants to sit here. Cheyenne starts beating him for not standing up to the gang. He is leaving, but suddenly he is reminded of a scene of his past and he stops. On the other side, Shin forces Hibiki to click naked pictures of Shiori and he also punches Hoku badly and stops him from shrieking. Hibiki bets that first they open her hands and then he will take off her clothes. They accept his condition and release Shiori's hands. So Hibiki and Shiori attack them together so that Shiori can escape, but they fail in his plan and Shin catches them again. By hearing the noise, Bin and Ryo also come there and ask them that he want to know everything about what is happening here. But Shin blames it all on Hibiki for having a smuggled cell phone. Shin tells him that Ryo is an instructor of grade 6. Now Hibiki knows that he will face punishment in return. He is sentenced to walk 15 miles a day and locked in a cell. He gets very sad thinking about his past and present. He cannot believe that everyone betrays him. On the other side, Ben gives water to Shin. Suddenly, Ryo comes there. Shin asks him about the reason for his presence. 7 years before, the army fought and Cheyenne was also included in them. All his companions and his friend Kai died in this fight. Then he wakes up nervously and goes to his family for condolence. She gets angry that why is he alive when her family is dead. Cheyenne goes to Gan, who is the son of his brother. He scolds him that he does not understand his mother's pain. He asks him to mourn her father's death here instead of playing games because he is a son of a hero. Hearing this, he gets panicked and starts shrieking. He tells him with anger he has suffered a lot because of his father. Being a policeman, his father has to change many places due to which he does not know about himself and has not become anything till now. He gets faint while shouting. Next day, Cheyenne goes to his chief, who tells him to help Kai's family. But Cheyenne gets angry and leave. Then he goes to Rin, who gives him a picture of Jean and tells him about her location. Then he goes to find Kai's daughter, Jean. Cheyenne reaches there and sees Jean is tied to her husband and is beating him continuously with a stick. Suddenly, her husband has a heartache and asks for his medicine. Cheyenne moves forward to give medicine, but Jean stops him. Jean's husband has a heart attack, but she does not give him medicine and leaves him to die. He dies in agony, but Jean does not care for it. Cheyenne asks him with anger that it is a murder to kill someone for the sake of property, and she should not do all this as a hero's daughter. Hearing this, she gets angry just like his brother. She screams at Cheyenne and starts hitting him with a stick. She hits him and says that they have killed his father, so why does he come here? She says that she killed her husband to feed the children. Hearing all this, he gets very depressed and tells her to hit him more because it is his fault. He cannot sleep since many Kai have died, so he wants to remedy this. Jean asks him to come to school tomorrow and she will make him an instructor over the kids so that he can train the students. Hibiki is doing exercise in the cell, but on the other side, Shiori, Akane, and Hoku are cleaning the room as a punishment. Akane is teasing them and says that she does not want to stay here. Shiori is sad to see them together because her brother is not with her and she is alone here. Seeing this, Hoku tells him to go to her younger brother for his hospitality and contact him through the local network. Akane says that she can steal a cell phone for her. Akane goes out to find the network under the pretense of not working. Hibiki's punishment is over and gets him out of the cell. He is tired of living in it for 2 weeks. Next morning, he comes under the sky and breathes a sigh of relief after seeing the rays of the sun. On the other side, Mei runs to catch Akane. Akane is running to save her life when she hits Moku, who is already very depressed about his life. Akane asks him that they can fight them together, but he refuses, because he is a hopeless boy. Meanwhile, Hibiki comes there and stops Mei from doing this, but they make fun of him and tell him that he is a loser and he cannot beat them because they are more in number than Hibiki. But he beats them all one by one and saves Akane and Moku's life. Akane, again impressed by him, wants to hug him. On the other side, Ryo goes to Jean's office and inflames him against Cheyenne. Next morning, everyone is doing practice under the instruction of Cheyenne. Hibiki expresses his embarrassment to everyone, apologizes to them, and promises to never do it again. Meanwhile, Hoku comes there with her team to fight with boys who are under instructions of Cheyenne. Hoku hits them all easily. Now Hibiki comes front to her to fight with her. Hibiki accepts the challenge to defeat the 18th class girl leader in a fight. But simultaneously, he remembers when Hoku asked him to act brave if they wanted to work together. But Hibiki, instead of agreeing, Hibiki asked her if that would work for him if he won. As he comes to fight Hoku on the ground, Hibiki provokes Hoku's anger by putting a hand on her chest. That angers her a lot, and she loses her mind. As a kung fu expert, she punches Hibiki in the chest without noticing that he only blocks the attack. He is deliberately doing so to drain her stamina. Suddenly, Hoku gives him a flying kick, but at the same time, Hibiki throws her on the ground and wraps his legs around her body so she cannot move. He puts his hands around her neck. She could hardly say that she had lost the fight. But the 18th class girls run towards Hibiki to wage a battle against him again. But Hoku stops them and tells them the war is over. The boys of the 18th class get so excited to know that they will get no punishment. 18th class instructor taunts that Hibiki used the cheap trick to win the fight. But Cheyenne gets angry with him that if he has a doubt, he can fight with him to decide. but the instructor denies it instantly as he knows that Cheyenne is the best fighter in the academy who achieved this rank after defeating top fighters. At the same time, Ryo arrives and wants a fair fight between the boys, so he offers that his 6th class fighter Yo would easily defeat Cheyenne's team member, Hibiki. But Cheyenne is reluctant to fight because Hibiki is a beginner with little formal training. Ryo taunts Cheyenne that his class can only win through cheap tactics. That angers Cheyenne, and he asks Ryo to fight with him to decide who is capable. Ryo is jealous of Cheyenne as Heen always favors him. She kicked and humiliated him when he attempted to have fun with her. Not Ryo plans to degrade Cheyenne in Jin's eyes. Hibiki can see that anger is brewing, and he cannot lose Cheyenne's trust. Thus, he asks Cheyenne to allow him a fight. But, as he is not so trained, they decide that Yo and Hibiki must compete in the stand at attention game. The game begins, and Yo and Hibiki stand opposite without moving an inch. 3 hours pass, and Hibiki does not fall in front of Yo's stamina. Finally, they announce a draw and appreciate each one's effort. Yo and Hibiki are so tired and go back to the dorm. At the same time, Yo is so angry for not winning against Hibiki. In the room, Hibiki asks Moku to bring 2 buckets of water, a hot and cold water bucket. When Moku returns with the bucket and is surprised at what Hibiki will do with it, the door opens, and Yo enters with his friends. Hibiki throws both water buckets at you. You suddenly fall and begin puking. The hot and cold water affected them badly on his muscles, and Hibiki knew the trick. He was expecting that Yo would come to attack. Yo's classmates come to Hibiki's room as they want to see Yo win. But to their surprise, they see him lying on the ground after Hibiki beats him a lot. Moku always beats him with the stick for calling him a dog. Hibiki asks the students who came to see the fight if they want to join him or bear Yo's tyranny forever. Mei opposes, but the other guy throws him aside and announces his and his friend's allegiance with Hibiki. While Shin stands at his mother's funeral and hears that people call her mother the mistress of a rich man, Shin's big brother asks him to go home after they all leave. But he is angry with him for being the culprit of what happened. Hibiki asks everyone to watch him while he takes revenge on Yo. He beats Yo to death. Afterward, Hibiki watches in a dream that he won the last sprint of the race while Shiori also plays well. After winning, everything, including the sky, gets red with blood, and he can't believe he is the same Hibiki. He sees his enemy and shouts that he would never like to be like him. Suddenly, Hibiki opens his eyes and finds a few former students with Yo. They ask him sorry for humiliating him before, but from now on, they will do as he asks. Hibiki tells them never to humiliate Moku and consider it an order. Afterward, he remembers how no one misses Shin. They do not fear Shin anymore. He remembers the day when he met Shin for the first time. Shin asks to accept his leadership or get ready to become a dog. He tells the boys to inform him if they know anything about SJ Hin. Also, they all are going to live like a family. The boys call him Big Bro, and Hibiki leaves to find Shin. On the other hand, the big brother of Shin calls Hayo and asks him to look after Shin for him as he doesn't like him around. The instructor tells him to stop worrying as he knows how to control him. While Akane grabs a mobile from Hu, Hoku comes there. She warns Hu that she will send Hu to the hospital to keep her mobile. Cheyenne comes into Hayo's office and beats him to find out where Shin is. He is angry that worthless Shin has ruined the school's reputation. But Jin asks him to leave Cheyenne as he is bleeding. Besides, he was the one who asked them to give Shin school admission. J-Ran gets cross, reminding Hayo to control his anger as he will face consequences if anything happens concerning Shin's breaches. Later, Hayo asks Ryo where Shin is and reports what he is doing. While knowing that Akane has a cell phone, Shiori wants to call her little sick brother. Akane says she has a mobile, but she can't make a call. The signals drop in the school while she is working on creating a device to allow her phone calls. Shiori asks Hoku about Shin, but they guess he always hides in the shadows. She does not reply when Hoku asks how she can afford to study here. She doesn't want to say she is being exploited by a man paying for her fee and her brother's treatment. Suddenly, Hibiki comes and asks Shiori to go with him, but she leaves. She is afraid that they will hate her after knowing her reality. Hayo enters Shin's room and tells his big brother that he will find Shin soon. Later, Hibiki enters Shin's home, everything is scattered, and the room is broken. Hibiki finds many chocolates in his room and begins to keep many in his pockets. He finds drugs, too. While Shiori enters her dorm, her roommate makes fun of her that she has watched her admission forms. It's written on them that she has severe internet addiction. Hence, she is not getting out anytime soon. Shiori pushes her back with anger. Shiori remembers how her little brother became her responsibility. She returned home one day and found that his mother had committed suicide. Her little brother promises to care for him while only 2 exist. They cry at the death of their mom so much. Since their father had already died, a man introduced himself as his father's cousin and offered to care for them as guardians. She accepts the offer because now they need support to live and she has no other option except this. A few days later, she finds that her little brother Shu has a fatal genetic disorder. Her uncle offers to pay for the illness, but this time, he needs a favor in return for the money he is spending on him. He acts so violently when Shiori refuses to allow a physical relationship. Shiori cries so much after her uncle abuses her. After this, she suffers mental agony. She takes a shower and wants to clean all the dirt from her body while crying. That thing never stops. He treated them as if he had bought them because of some money. Once, Shiori injures her uncle and in return he wants to punish her, and in that anger, he sends her to this academy where she would never be allowed to come out. She will never meet her brother while living here. The roommate keeps laughing at Shiori for her miserable circumstances because they are unaware of what happened to her. Seeing her poor appearance makes them feel sorry for her and now they want to help her. She tells her that she can help her escape if she obeys her. Her roommate says that if she wants to meet her brother again, she has to obey everything. On the other hand, Moku asks Hibiki to bring him into the room so that he can escape from the cold. But Hibiki gets lost in his thoughts and grabs his neck out of worry. He angrily asks him if he has heard anything about Shin in the last 2 weeks because he wants to find Shin at any cost. Moku gets nervous about it and replies that he has not seen Shin anywhere. Hearing this, Hibiki becomes helpless and leaves her collar. Then he gets calm and asks Moku how he escaped the first time. Moku replies not to run away from here because these people will catch him again, but Hibiki does not pay attention to his words and wants to answer. Then Moku shares that he met a purple-haired guy who gave him the map. After getting out, he posted what happened in the academy, and they erased the post immediately. Then his parents sent him back here. Hibiki is sure that the man who guided was Shin because he has purple hair. The next day, Hibiki and all the class 4 are heartbroken to see that Hayo is their new instructor. They suspended Cheyenne, but Hibiki is suspicious of his suspension. He is Cheyenne's senior. He tells them that if one falls, they have to start all over again. Suddenly, Moku falls to the ground to keep standing in the ground for so long. Hayo grabs Moku and tells them to stand up as he caused all the mess yesterday. Hibiki reveals that he fought with Yo and will not let that happen again. Hayo asks everyone to sit down and take Hibiki to go to his office. Here, he serves him a coffee and asks him to relax and sit with patience. At the same time, Hayo promises to let him out of the school if he never misbehaves. Hayo knows that the school likes Hibiki now and offers to help him and Ryo manage the students and mobile business, and he will help him get out of there. Hibiki is so surprised at the offer. Then Hayo takes Hibiki to jail, where Shiori is imprisoned. Instead of showing love, he mocks Shiori in front of Hayo. Hibiki promises that he will do anything Hayo asks. He asks him to find his lost phone first. Hibiki immediately finds the phone and brings it to Hayo, who gets so happy and allows him to spend time with Shiori. He cries so much that Shiori gets unconscious after bearing so much pain. He promises to get her out of there. Shin knew that his brother disliked his mother as she was his father's mistress. Before coming to this school, he always told her mom to be careful of her brother because he wanted to harm her. But her mom did not think of anything wrong with the brother and stopped Shin from thinking like that. But he knows that his mother is murdered. He saw a needle mark on her mom's neck. Hayo injected Shin's mom with a poisonous injection that became the cause of her death. Shin is hiding in the school sewer hole and remembers how people mocked his mother, but she was a great person. He faced humiliation many times in society for being the son of a mistress. They used to call Shin unclean and laughed at him as a mistress whose son was a dirty creature. He was not able to shut everyone's voices. Sitting in the sewer, Shin feels that this place reeks terrible smell. He gets up with a plan that his brother will never forget. Ryo announces to the students to become like Hibiki. As a speaker, he exemplifies Hibiki and tells everyone to follow his footprints so that they will become valuable members of society soon. Afterward, the great behaving students would be allowed to return home more quickly. Hayo calls Hibiki in his office after the practice session in the field. He asks Hibiki if he knows where Shin is. Hibiki admits that he knows everything about Shin. That makes Hayo very happy, and with a cruel smile, he asks Hibiki to go and take as many students as he wants. Bring Shin back to the campus because he is his friend's brother, who wants Shin back on the campus soon. Hayo smiles like the devil. Hibiki is cooking up a plan in his brain, but he asks Hayo to relax and wait here as he will bring Shin in no time. As soon as Hibiki leaves the office, Ryo thinks that Hayo must not put so much trust in him. Hayo asks Hibiki to take other students and bring Shin to him. He knows they were fighting in the past so that he can mistreat Shin. Hayo tells Ryo that if Hibiki acts as a traitor, they will punish him like Jun because they are allowed to mistreat these trash kids by their parents. Besides, Hibiki is power hungry so that he will obey. Hibiki goes to his fellows, who call him Big Brother, and asks them to help him do a job for him. He assured his fellows that they would never have to endure any other brutal training session again. He has a plan, and if they join him, he promises that it will be their last training here. They promise to do as Hibiki says. A phone call is received at the media office that a school is mistreating kids and breaking the law in the name of internet addiction. They brutally treat the students while everything is hidden from the general public. As the news circulates, people are so surprised to know that there can be a school like that in the world. That news went viral. A news reporter comes to school when Ryo receives a fresh supply of goods. Hayo gets angry and asks everyone who did the call. He guesses that it must be Shin who exposed them. The media gathered outside the school, and Jin assured the reporter they got the wrong news. On the other hand, Hibiki finds Hayo going outside the campus to solve the matter. Hibiki stops him, asks if people got data from Jun's phone, and reaches them. He also shared that he knows where Shin lives and how Ryo is helping him. Hayo begins beating Hibiki while he tells Hayo that he will not let him escape. Cheyenne also arrives and asks Hayo to surrender and let the police do their job. Hayo laughs that no police will come and students will never leave them. He turns around where all the students are gone. Suddenly, they see Shin's room on fire as he burns the fire and aims to turn it into ashes. Inside the campus, many students died fighting the police. At the same time, Hibiki ensures that many students leave the campus safely. Afterward, Hibiki meets Shin at a mountain while the fire destroys the campus. The series